I just sat there and chatted away over two videos of making tubing and realized that I was pushing the start button when I should have been pushing the stop button and pushing the stop button when I pushed the start button. Same button, but it just clicked it at the wrong time. Anyway, I am going to try this one more time. I made two types of tubing uh, in Torch Talk Hangouts and put some pictures of it on Facebook, and people responded that they wanted to know what I did and how I did it. I'm going to do both videos, one each, one of the striped type and one of the, I want to almost call it like a paisley because you can see the swirl patterns. You can't see it there. The light and the refraction are kind of crazy. You can see it better that way. Okay. Anyway, I'll show you a picture of it at the end. These aren't the ones that I'm actually making. Um, the video, again, I started when I should have stopped and stopped when I should have started, so I got to do it over again. But you learn persistence pays off. If you screw up and you're frustrated, walk away, gain your composure, come back, and try again. That's one thing about glass. It can frustrate the living daylights out of you if you want it to. And if you realize that once you learn a pattern, once you learn the ideas of what you've got to do, and just do it, the world is your oyster with glass. You can come up with many great and important things to yourself and to others. But in my case, um, this time it's just getting over it and doing tubing again. Um, Thank you very much for watching. Click like, click subscribe, and enjoy the video. Let's start this again. Those beeping noises that you hear are me starting my oxygen concentrators, which is my main source of oxygen at this time. Now, the tubing that I did before was longer, but not due to time restrictions. It looks like most of the time, most people only watch these things for like 3 to 5 minutes anyway. I'm going to try to shorten it and only make a shorter piece of tubing to give you an idea of what you got to do. First of all, one of the things that does help to have is a blow hose and swivel. This thing is so that while you're turning the glass, the swivel comes in handy, that it works out that it doesn't twist the tubing, the hose to your tubing, and a tooth to your, anyway, and so that you can spin it all the time you want without it kinking. And those swivels are sweet to have. Now, next of all, 9 mil heavy wall tubing is what I used for the main color and size of the tubing that I use. It looks a lot bigger. Yes, it does end up being bigger, but to do bigger things, sometimes you have to start small. Next, let's kick this flame on. One of the first colors that I used in most of the videos was, I have three colors. One of them was moss green. Okay, moss green. And as I'm doing this, I'm not forcing the color on. I'm heating up the rod, the color of the rod only, and layering it onto the tubing. And I'm not going to make this very long. Again, time-wise, all I'm doing here is to demonstrate the application, not to make a big, huge application of it. Okay? Then, One of the other colors that I used was red exotic. And this is some of the red exotic encased that I did on a YouTube video on before. I couldn't tell you which number it is, but just look for red exotic encasement. And you'll find it. There it is. And with most of these, I lined one line on top of the next to the next one. The next color I used was not around when you want it, is it? Oh yeah, periwinkle. And the one periwinkle that I have is too short. And oh, here we go. Nope, that's not it either. Maybe I can just come up with it. Oh, it wasn't periwinkle, it was steel wool. Then I did the periwinkle. And the steel wool I used is some of the encased steel wool that I made. And yes, sometimes it does have some stress in it and it pops and cracks. But I'm doing it straight cold and I'm just doing it straight from the hip, so bear with me. Okay. And that's one of them. And I'll do another line of that right next to it. Now, the other ones I did a wigwag pattern. And this one, I think I'm going to do complete swirl twist. On second thought, no, I'll do a wigwag pattern here too. And because I know I adore my fingers, and even though glass is not a great conductor of heat, that rod is going to get a little bit too close for my fingers. So I'm putting it on an extension and starting to layer it in. Again, I am not forcing this glass onto that tubing. I am just lightly drawing it on. You're not forcing the glass. The glass will always win. Never fight the glass. Work with it. Make it work for you. You'll have better results that way. Now, the blow hose comes in handy. One of the first things I do is seal off the end of the tube. Then, in the Torch Talk YouTube video that came out this week, March 30th, no, it was yesterday, so that would be March 29th, 2016. There was a guy that did basically the same idea, but he was using 25 mil heavy wall tubing and going down and doing a whole big huge piece. But some of you only have like a single flame, single torch, and you think that job is going to be a little bit inundated for me or too big to do. Well, this is where this comes in. Yes, I'm using a Carlisle, but believe it or not, before I started using this Carlisle, I used a single flame National Torch hand torch for my torch bench torch. Okay, and with that, I got the same results that I'm doing right now. The only reason that I'm getting or using this torch and this flame for this is so that you can see the results that much faster. Now what I've done is smoothed out between each color, and even down here at the bottom it's kind of a little rough, but not terribly. And there you got 4 lines of color going all the way around this tube. Next, I add 8 mil shot glass, is what I've got here. And I'll just layer that on. Now I'm going to kick this up again. Again for time wise. And layer it on. As you can see, I'm heating up the rod more than the tubing. And you can heat up the tubing and keep it warm. That's a good thing. But if you overheat that tubing, especially as small as you're working it, that tubing will slump one way or another. Okay, one. Now take it around until it's all the way down. Between each line of glass that I'm putting on here, there's probably going to be a small air line. But because it goes completely down to the bottom like I'm lining, when I first start heating up the tubing one more time, I'm going to start at this end and work my way down. So it should force the air right along with it and out the end of the airline, if you do this right. Yes, there's small bubbles from time to time, but you get that in anything that you do, basically. And again, I'm not forcing this. I'm just heating it up and layering it on. That white line you see in that rod is where I put two rods together. It's so that I try to heat and melt them together, and so that I can just keep working like I'm doing right now. I tried doing these videos in a darker shade so you could see more of what was going on inside the torch, but it made everything look too dark and you couldn't see what was going on otherwise. So I decided to just lighten it up a little bit again, so you can't see exactly what's going on inside the torch. But I've also got a didymium lens over my camera lens, a low-tech answer to a high-tech device. You can see a picture of that in Torch Talk Hangout. I actually just took a old pair of didymium glasses that I have and taped them literally to the lens so that it would take out the yellow sodium flame from the camera, for the camera, excuse me. So you could see a little bit more of what's going on inside the flame. Okay, all encased. And again, you can probably see airlines going all the way down it. And I haven't forced the glass, and I'm actually going to even pinpoint it a little bit more. And from here, I'm going to heat it up, melt it in, blow a little bit, and it'll expand a little bit. As you start working, the air will start working its way down. Now I bulge it just a little bit, as you can see, from the actual thickness that it was. Mainly to tell where I have been and where I need to go. And I'm lightly, I'm not even really puffing. I'm sort of just, it's sort of like a extended bubblegum bubble, but you're only puffing a little bit. You're not puffing to make it bigger. You're just making the pressure a little bit more than what it is. Well, I missed a spot, but that's okay. it'll look okay in the long run. Here I am talking instead of doing. Never was good at walking and chewing gum. Again, I'm going all the way down this tube. As I do, the airline is working its way. The air is working its way down to the bottom. Almost there. Working my way down to the bottom. As I have done so, the air has moved along, creating very little or no bubbles. I overblew that at the end because where all those little nibs or nipples or whatever you want to call them came to an end was a little bulkier and a little thicker. And now I'm sort of sucking in slightly to bring that back down, smoothing it down to the same size and level. But it really doesn't matter at this point because I'm going to go through it one more time and wigwag it back and forth. Stretch it out a little bit. Just got a little bit bigger than I was expecting it to be. Something happened good. That's enough to make it one pipe or a lot of beads. Now beads. The beads that I do, matter of fact, I'll make one. No, not in this video, but out of this piece of tubing, I promise in a future video, this very piece of tubing, I will make one of my hollow beads. I did not use mandrels. I did not like the way the mud caked on the inside. Just a personal preference. But it's one of those necessary evils that a lot of people put up with because they want to make some great beads. But I start out hollow to begin with, and I keep it hollow. If you've seen some of my stuff on Facebook under Lucian Libby, I've got hollow bead elephants. I've got hollow bead elephant heads. I do a lot of hollow things. As a matter of fact, some of my dragons in my videos are hollow. Learning to make tubing is a good thing. Okay? I've gone over it one more time and sort of thinned it out or stretched it out just a little bit. Now here's where the fun comes in. This tubing by itself is great. But now to wigwag it. You heat it up a little bit, twist. That's the easy part. You can go all the way down and twist like that. This is where the fun comes in. You now go down to the part where it stops swirling and heat it up and twist it in the other direction. Got a little ripple in there. Just learn to work with it. Now go down to where it stops bending in the other direction. Heat it up again. And again, twist it in the other direction. And you keep producing that pattern back and forth. Heat and twist. This is where the blowing comes in. You're tucking a little bit, blowing. Where that ripple is coming up. You heat it and smooth it out a little bit. You could also use your L marker. That does a good job. Another 2, maybe 3 twists, and I'll be done. Another one. Yeah, and that'll do it. And there you got one wigwag pattern tubing. And if you want to do it bigger, smaller, see, that's the thing. If you want to use smaller tubing, use smaller tubing. And if you want to use thinner stringer, use thinner stringer. You don't have to use the big, heavy duty, it's adapt it to your surroundings. Adapt it so that you can use it to your betterment. So, until next time, enjoy your day. Okay, you've got green moss, red exotic, steel wool, sparkly, 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 and then periwinkle blue. That's the tubing that I just made a little while ago. I hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.